Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Stay Golden Inside Looks at the Golden Girls. I'm really excited today to dive into the kitchen portion of the set. Last episode we did the living room, this week the kitchen, where most of the action takes place in our favorite show. So sit back, relax, and stay tuned to learn some tips and tricks and some secrets you might not have known about our favorite show. Stay tuned. Much like we found with some details in the living room, the kitchen made an appearance on another show before it was a hub of activity for the four Golden Girls. The kitchen set was originally built for a 1982 Susan Harris sitcom, It Takes Two, starring namely a young Helen Hunt, Patty Duke, and many others. Like the Golden Girls, the show was also produced by Paul Junker-Witt and Tony Thomas and also written by Susan Harris. The show, running only one season, revolved around Sam and Molly Quinn, who were just those two hard-working career professionals, just too busy with their professional lives to pay attention to their children and to each other. The kitchen set actually threw off the whole layout for the house. As we talked about in the last episode, the layout of the house based on the set and what we see in the show just makes zero sense. And the art team with the Golden Girls recognized that. In fact, the production designer, Ed Stevenson, whipped up the pilot layout for the show that only included Blanche's bedroom, the lanai, and the living room in just a few short days. Time was of the essence in getting the pilot out for the Golden Girls. They tried so many different ways to make it make sense, but according to assistant art director Michael Hines in interviews after the show was off the air, he admitted the kitchen created an issue no one could ever solve. And they said they would fix it if they made it past the pilot episode, but we all know that never happened. All eyes are on that kitchen table for most episodes where the girls spend what's portrayed as hours chatting and eating about life. But did you ever pay attention to just how many different tablecloths we see? Most homes only have a few tablecloths. I know that I only probably have 2 or 3, but it's reported that the wardrobe rack on set had 60 to 75 tablecloths at any given time for the set of the Golden Girls. This is because the patterns would clash with the girls' fashion. I mean, think about how loud some of their prints were that were just so signature 80s. Most also know that Estelle Getty was horrible at memorizing her lines, so the tablecloth would cover up where she would tape either a piece of her script or any other thing that she would write to remind herself of her lines. You might also notice that the 4 women never all sat at the same table at once, in all those chairs that way. And that's because they didn't want any of the girls to have their backs to the audience or to the TV, or try and squeeze them all awkwardly around that little bistro table. The seating at the table was also situationally dependent. Obviously, Dorothy was always primarily at the center because she's kind of the lead and the anchor of the show, and we watch her reactions to the conversation and usually the ridiculousness she hears from either Sophia, Blanche, or Rose. And what determines who sits on either side of her is based on exits from the scene. So whoever needs to exit through the garage, whoever needs to exit through the swinging kitchen door, that determines where at the table they're going to sit. So think about that the next time you watch the show. We also have to remember Bea Arthur was super tall. Or I think she's recorded as 5'9.5" or 5'10". She looks tall on the set, but 5'9" today, we don't consider it too tall. So she also needed to be at the center of the table for that reason. In some of my reading about the show and reading some interviews and some other books that fans and others have put together about the show, there's an interesting debate that's going on between Betty White and Rue McClanahan, and that's about Rue actually eating the cheesecake or any of the other treats that they eat at the kitchen table on the show. Betty White is so sure of herself that Rue McClanahan ate every bite that was put in front of her or that you saw on the show. And Rue McClanahan is insistent that she would make it look like she was about to take a bite, and then as the camera panned away from her to go to another shot in the scene, she took the fork and she would swat the food off the fork onto a paper plate out of sight from the shot. So that's another little interesting tidbit I figured that you guys might find interesting. Another really cool thing that I learned about the Golden Girls kitchen doing all this research was about what's called the Golden Girls Bermuda Triangle. Okay, so bear with me on this. The Golden Girls Bermuda Triangle is located in the back entrance of the kitchen where you would normally see the girls go through to the garage. And it's quite literally a triangle space between set pieces where the girls would go when they would get off the set or out of the shot to either touch up their makeup, go over a line before they entered into the scene. And everybody referred to it specifically as that. The Golden Girls Bermuda Triangle. I'll never look at that the same way again on the set. Another piece of the set worth talking about is the shelving unit that you see to the left on the set that's over by the swinging door. It's important to remember, and I think we forget about this because we're just so engrossed in the show, is that these sets aren't up at all times. There might be some episodes where they're not using the kitchen set at all, but they keep that shelving unit up to the left near the swinging kitchen door because if there's scenes in the living room and someone exits into the kitchen by pushing open that door, that's a portion of the set that people can actually see in the shot. So the art directors had the foresight to make sure to keep only that piece up, even if the kitchen set was not going to be used for that particular episode. Another piece of the show in the kitchen that you might not think about is that oven. We don't see them cook at it too often, but I mean, there have been times where I've desired to try Sophia's famous sauce that she probably learned a recipe from in Sicily, the lasagna that she makes. Rose makes a bunch of cakes. I'm not really in the mood or down to try her Spreehoven Krispies. But the cooktop is something that was changed right before the start of the show. So you'll notice the use of the kitchen in other shows. There's a wall unit for a wall oven instead of having the stovetop free range like it is in the show set for the Golden Girls. And what most people don't know is that it's in the front of the oven where you would normally pull to put something into the oven. It's just a piece of plywood with a handle. And so they were really clever in keeping that out of the shot. And we did, in fact, at some point see the Golden Girls put things or take things out of the oven. The reason that this was a change before the start of taping is because the show found that the girls really centralized in the kitchen, and that's where the script really went with most of the episodes. And they wanted to have that cooking element, but also keep it engaging and not have their backs to the set. So another little interesting tidbit. Another reason that the oven was moved out of the wall was to make more room for wall decor. They really wanted to bring people into the time and the style of 1980s Florida, Miami specifically. So if you notice on the right-hand side where that wall oven used to be, there's a lot of those gold Jell-O molds, which were really popular kitchen decorations for the time and specifically for the age group. One of the real reasons behind this was because they were very nervous and they wanted to make sure that they really roped in and had empathy and draw for that over 50 age group of women who kind of didn't have a place that they could call their own on television at the time. But little did we know that Golden Girls would transcend every age group, and not just in the time that it aired, but even today. So that's something else that, maybe not some of you might have known. That's all that I have here for today's episode with the kitchen. If you guys have any other tidbits or knowledge that you know about the kitchen, please share them. I'd love to hear about them. And if you have any other ideas for videos you'd like me to do some more research on, share them, comment, subscribe, like, follow, all of those things. I really appreciate any of the conversations that we have about one of my favorite shows. Thank you, and stay tuned for another episode, and I'll see you next time.